For the past 3 or 4 days, various outlets have commented on Donald Trump and his numerous mentions of African American communities and asking for the support of African Americans across the country. Now, the majority, I take that back, every last one of these mainstream media news outlets, including Fox, have stated that Donald Trump really is not going after the African American vote. What he's trying to do is he's trying to make his appearance seem softer to his own Republican base, and if successful, to try to push that out to independents and, in some cases, Democrats. White independents and Democrats, especially white female independents and Democrats. Donald Trump is hurting and cannot even have a chance of being competitive in this election unless he can expand his tent. He can't do it with old white men. Can't do it alone with old white men. He needs women. He needs those suburban moms. He needs white independent women. He needs white democratic suburban women. He has to make inroads there. So in effect, he is trying to say that he's not that bad and it's not a sin to vote for him because he does reach out to minorities and specifically African Americans. That is a load of bullshit. Donald Trump is trying to play everybody. His request for black votes doesn't hold water. If it did, he would have appeared at the NAACP meeting, which was an hour away from where he was. He's got his own jet. They would have been more than happy to grant him a favorable speaking space. And how long would he have had to speak? A half an hour at most? If he really wanted to do it, he was right there in Cleveland, and it was, like I said, an hour away. He could have made it. He's gotten invitations, timely invitations, unlike how Darrell Scott would portray it, in order to speak in front of the Urban League, in front of the Association of Black Journalists, Hispanic Journalists. He's gotten numerous invitations to speak in front of primarily minority black organizations. He's turned every last one of them down. So for him and his surrogates and spokespeople to make a phony claim that Donald Trump really does want black votes, that's a bunch of crap. Now, you're going to have Roland Martin interviewing Pastor Davis, who is a bought and paid for black preacher who is now, in truth, paid for because he's working in Donald Trump's National Diversity Coalition, along with Darrell Scott and Omarosa and a couple of other people whose outreach is not worth the effort that they, quote unquote, have made. These guys, again, are just window dressing and really have no substance. Now, I want to play this whole interview, and Pastor James Davis is going to get out there and make his phony claims and not be able to back up the questions that Roland has. Now, again, Hillary Clinton, obviously, you know, she's appearing in front of all these groups, and people support her. So, yeah, that's an easy call, you know, for her to speak to these groups. She has black support. But there have been other Republicans, okay, who have spoken to primarily black audiences, okay? And Roland's going to mention a couple of them. I'll tell you, George Bush has done it. Mitt Romney's done it. He's not going to mention, but I will. Rand Paul has done it. You've had Republicans like Jack Kemp, which I know was a long time ago, and he was famous for it. He would appear in front of any type of a black audience at the drop of a hat, okay, because he was for real. But there are quite a few Republicans that really don't have a problem talking about, to, and in front of African American audiences. Trump is not one of them. All right, I've rambled for 6 minutes. Let's get into this this interview so that you can see for yourself that this guy's a phony.
Has been more harmed by Hillary Clinton's policies than African Americans. No group. If Hillary Clinton's goal was to inflict pain on the African American community, she could not have done a better job. It's a disgrace.
Folks, that is Donald Trump speaking at a rally on Friday in Michigan, where he is making an attempt to court black voters. Well, you heard that is his attempt to do so. What's interesting that he was speaking in a town that is 93% white. Earlier in the week, he also spoke in Wisconsin, in a town 95% white. What in the world is going on with Donald Trump's strategy to court black voters when you look at many states like Ohio and Pennsylvania? He's polling literally at 0%.
Roland, you forgot to mention that when he spoke in that town in Wisconsin that was 93% white, earlier in the day, he was in Milwaukee speaking to police officers and veterans. So he could have easily arranged to give that speech that he gave at that white town in Milwaukee. He could have easily arranged to make that same speech in Milwaukee itself.
Here's more of Donald Trump's attempt to woo black voters.
Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose? Hillary Clinton would rather provide a job to a refugee from overseas than to give that job to unemployed African American youth in cities like Detroit who have become refugees in their own country. And at the end of 4 years, I guarantee you that I will get over 95% of the African American vote. I promise you. Because I will produce for the inner cities, and I will produce for the African Americans.
95%? Okay, that's quite interesting, Donald Trump. Folks, on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, Kellyanne Conway, Trump's new campaign manager, she says she thought his outreach to black folks was great.
The many in the African American community saw that as insulting, as they say most African Americans don't live in poverty, and that Mr. Trump was making those comments in communities that are more than 90% white.
But those comments are for all Americans, and I live in a white community. I'm white. I was very moved by his comment. In other words, he is trying to tell Americans that we can do better. And the thing that he said that I think got a great deal of resonance is that maybe Hillary Clinton looks at you as voters this year, takes you for granted. I look at you as people. And if you, again, George, if you think 58% of unemployment in the African-American youth community is a good idea, then absolutely please go vote for Hillary Clinton, everyone. But he's saying you can't do any worse. We're the party. He's the candidate that believes in school choice vouchers and charter schools for African-American, Hispanic students, and everybody really. But they've benefited. I've done a lot of work in that space here in New York City, and it's just remarkable to see the quality education that these students who are fully capable and very intelligent receive through school choice and charters. Hillary Clinton's against those.
You know, that pisses me off, and not what she's saying. It pisses me off that I was not able to catch that George Stephanopoulos show, because I would have done a video on this yesterday.
All right, folks, let's do a little fact check here. Donald Trump says 58% of black youth are unemployed, but the reality is this: he's counting black kids who are high school students and college students who are in classes. Also, he lays this out, his poverty claim, where basically all of black folks are in poverty. No, 26% of African Americans, about 10 million African Americans, live in poverty. There are 45 million African Americans in the United States. 100%. That's Trump's facts. Let's go right to a couple of folks. Let's talk about this here. First up, James Davis, a board member for the National Diversity Coalition for Trump. He joins us from pastor from Cleveland, Ohio. Joins us via Skype. Also from New York, Jolena Maxwell, the progressive media director for Hillary Clinton. James, Pastor Davis, I want to go to you first. Are you there?
I'm there, sir. Good morning.
Okay, I need you to explain to me. Donald Trump's facts are wrong. The numbers he's presenting are dead wrong. But people, African Americans all across social media, felt insulted by his comments. How is speaking to a 93% white audience, 95% early in the week, somehow a real outreach to black folks?
Well, I don't care if he's in Iowa or in one of the small, in a town that has a 0% black population. At the end of the day, when he opens his mouth, the entire world listens, and the cameras are going to be there. So obviously, black people heard the message, because we're on here talking about it this morning. When Hillary Clinton went to Scranton, Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago, no one had a problem with her being in a town that scarcely has black people, and she was addressing similar issues herself. So the venue, I think we can kind of dismiss that, because it doesn't matter where it is.
Actually, Pastor Davis, we can't dismiss that because when he was earlier the week in Wisconsin, he didn't speak in Milwaukee. Also, there he was there. He didn't speak in Detroit, and so he didn't speak to the end of.
See, and Roland, he missed a point. He did speak in Milwaukee. He just spoke to police officers and to veterans in Milwaukee. He could have, as I indicated earlier, he could have given that same speech in Milwaukee, where he would have got a much greater number of black people in his audience. But again, there's a reason for that, and guess what? This pastor is going to tell you what that reason is, so hang in there.
NAACP, did speak to the National Urban League, did not speak to the National Association of Black Journalists. So at what point is Donald Trump actually going to talk to black people who are actually in the room?
Again, I think that was already attempted, because when you went to Chicago, the minions took over and shut the meeting down.
No, that's not true. Pastor Davis, first and foremost, Pastor Davis.
Then all of a sudden, now he's supposed to go back into hostile territory.
No.
And there's your answer. He considers the black community hostile territory, and he's going to say something just as bad, if not worse, within a few minutes in this clip.
No, Pastor Davis.
Yeah, it's probably better that he speaks away from it than sitting in the middle of it.
Pastor Davis, wait a minute. when he had a rally, in Chicago. That wasn't speaking to black folks. It was at the University of Chicago, Illinois campus. That wasn't at Chicago State.
But it's
I'm going to ask you again. Well, 1 second.
Speaking to whether or not there was a majority of people in these areas, and so now he goes into a city that has a huge minority block in it, and then all of a sudden it turns into chaos. And then so now I guess he's supposed to go into the line of fire every time. And so the venue question is at the end of the day, regardless of this, go ahead.
He just said the line of fire. So that he's saying that if Donald Trump were going to speak in front of a minority community, that in his mind is going into the line of fire. Okay.
I'm going to ask you a simple question. I want a simple answer. Why is it that Donald Trump will not speak in front of largely African-American audiences?
Again, if I'm going into a place that is hostile, then why should I come? If I'm going to reject it, if your mind is already made up, because it seems to me that black Americans' mind is already made up about Mr. Trump, most of them, and so now I'm going to speak to you from afar. And say, because if he can speak to a couple of folks and wake up just a handful, because even some of the smart folks in black intelligentsia are saying that if he pulls 3, even some of these pundits are going to say if he pulls 3 out of 20, he has the election. And there are people that are waking up. There's a wave of people that are saying, we're tired of people and telling us that it's raining. They've had enough of it.
I want to go to Jelena Maxwell. Jelena, it's interesting because President George W. Bush spoke 5 out of 8 years as president to the National Urban League. He spoke to the National Urban League when he was running for president. And so I don't think anybody has called the National Urban League a hostile audience. Mitt Romney in 2012, he spoke to the NAACP. That wasn't hostile. I was actually there. Also, numerous candidates over the years, including Senator Bob Dole, has spoken to the National Association of Black Journalists. I was there. And so those are not hostile audiences. Your take on Trump's refusal to actually speak in front of African Americans?
Well, I think there's a reason why he's refusing to speak in front of African-American audiences. And there's a reason why African-American audiences are at this point hostile to what he is saying. He spent a large portion of the 8 years of the Obama presidency asking for the first black president's birth certificate. He, remember, was leading that charge to get President Obama to release his, quote, long-form birth certificate. He came out the day 1 of his presidential campaign insulting Mexicans, calling them rapists. His entire campaign has been demeaning rhetoric and divisive policies. So there is a reason why black people don't support him. It's not that we're just hostile to an alternative message. It's the fact that his rhetoric is divisive and demeaning, and we're rejecting that. I think also, if he had something to offer black people, it's not that we don't have anything to lose. We have everything to lose, and he has nothing to offer us.
I got to ask you this question here. I'm going to ask both of you this question. Now, I ask you, Jelena, first. If I decided to put together, let's say, a town hall that speaks specifically to black issues, do you believe that your candidate, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, would participate in that kind of event in front of African Americans?
Well, of course, Roland, because as you know, she already has participated in 2 town halls with you. And she's also, as you said, gone to the Urban League, gone to the NAACP, and most recently gone to NABJ. So she is not shying away from speaking directly to African Americans, but it's not just about talking to those communities. She's also listening to the mothers of the movement. She's listening to young African American people and trying to tackle and provide solutions for the issues that they are bringing to light. And that will continue all the way through Election Day and then beyond that, because she's actually saying, hold me accountable for what I'm promising to do, and I want to actually provide solutions to make your lives better. I think that that's something that we can actually believe in. If you don't have anything to offer, of course you're going to say, oh, you have nothing to lose, because you're not providing any solutions.
Pastor Davis, if I chose to set up a town hall, let's say in Chicago, let's say in Baltimore, and we aired it on TV One, would Donald Trump show up to that kind of town hall in front of African Americans?
Hell no! But this guy's gonna lie.
Should show up.
and that he absolutely should, and I believe that he would. Circling back to your original comment.
Are you giving your word that you believe that if we put this together, that Donald Trump would actually show up to discuss black issues in front of black people?
Why wouldn't he? Again, the hostility has become based upon this media portrayal of him being the so-called rhetoric of all of this. The whole birther issue, circling back to that appeared in the public discourse somewhere in 2008 from the Hillary Clinton camp. And as much as liberal media wants to deny that, he picked it up in 11, and I agree with that. He picked it up in 11 and say, now,
Pastor Davis, was it wrong? I gotta ask you.
It's the same courtesy and respect.
No, I gotta ask you this here. Was it wrong?
Got the long form birth certificate, and so black people have this offense. So they can't even hear the message because they're offended that the least vetted president in history got called out on whether or not he was a citizen or not. Get past that. What do we have right now? And so he's saying, what the hell do we have to lose? At the end of the day, we have
the least vetted president in the United States. That is such a ton of bullshit. He's probably the most vetted president that we've ever had in the United States. Jesus.
Higher poverty rate, higher unemployment. Our cities are melting around us. We have police brutality, all the rest of these things that are.
We have police brutality, and when exactly did Donald Trump speak about police brutality? All Donald Trump talks about is more police and supporting the police, et cetera, as far as being pro-police. So for him to even utter those words, police brutality, that's a bunch of bullshit too.
Going on in our communities is on fire and no one is sending a fire truck. And so the man is simply saying, try something new, because all I hear out of the Hillary Clinton is the same old saying, what we've always gotten, and so here we sit right now.
Well, I'll tell you what, so Pastor Davis, I got 20 seconds. So you saying you were supportive of Donald Trump's attacks on President Obama and his birth certificate?
I'm saying that the president needed to be vetted, yes.
He was. But he's an American. So why question his American credentials?
Because it was unclear, and if something's unclear, it needs to be vetted. Okay. I don't care who it is. See, that's the sensitivity.
Okay. See, that's the bullshit. None of them were saying a word about Obama's mama, who was from Kansas, and absolutely they couldn't say a word about her being American. So by definition, him being her son, no matter where he was born, he was able to claim American citizenship, natural American citizenship. And these guys basically were running with an argument that fell flat on its face just based on the merits. Okay, they didn't say anything about John McCain. They jump up and down about him. He was born in Panama, but he was born on an American military base in Panama. So yada yada yada. They didn't jump up and down about Ted Cruz, and he was born in Canada. Okay. How long did that last? Trump wasn't all over that. Trump, said a couple of cursory words because he had no choice because of the birther situation. But these guys are all full of crap. That birther thing, Trump will never get the black vote because all we got to do is say birther and his picture comes up.
And that we have that if you ask a black man a question, or if you call the black folks into accountability, because if the previous chair of the Congressional Black Caucus said if we were in the economic condition that we're in underneath a white administration, that we would be burning the White House down. But I'm racist if we call them into accountability and I'm white, and I'm a Tom or a coon if I call them into accountability and I'm black. So which is it? So there's no accountability at all.
I don't use those phrases, but I'll say this here. A lot of black folks clearly offended by the birther issue. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much, Zelina Maxwell, Pastor Davis. When we come back, we'll talk to the...
All right, so this one is going up pretty quick, and then I'll come back and pick up the other... there's a couple other noteworthy stories that need to be put out there this morning.